I didn't recognize safety while I was inside it. That's the cruel thing about emotional stability. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't create adrenaline or chaos. It just exists quietly, holding space. He wasn't loud. He didn't need to dominate conversations or prove his worth through drama. He was predictable in the way that calms your nervous system, not excites it. And I mistook that calm for something replaceable. When you live inside consistency long enough, you stop noticing it. You assume it's the baseline of life, not a gift someone is actively providing. I didn't see that his steadiness was effort. Emotional regulation is effort. Reliability is effort. Being the same person on good days and bad days is not accidental, it's character. And I didn't value it because it didn't fluctuate. Now that he's gone, the silence feels different. It's not peaceful. It's exposed. There's no emotional floor beneath me anymore. I feel the instability I once thought I wanted. The freedom I convinced myself was growth now feels like weightlessness, and not the good kind. I didn't realize how much of my calm came from knowing someone was anchored, even when I wasn't. The fear isn't about missing him in a romantic sense. It's deeper than that. I fear not finding that kind of emotional safety again. Not because men like him don't exist, but because they're rare, and rarer still is my ability to recognize them in time. Safety doesn't feel intoxicating when you're used to chaos. It feels unfamiliar, almost boring, until it's gone. And that's the regret that lingers, realizing I had something that didn't require survival mode. Something that didn't keep me guessing. Something that allowed my nervous system to rest. I didn't lose excitement, I lost peace, and peace, once disrupted, is not easily rebuilt. When he stopped explaining himself, something shifted inside me. Not relief, not victory, but fear. Because his explanations were never about weakness, they were about effort. He wanted to be understood. He wanted alignment. He believed that communication could fix disconnection, and I let him carry that responsibility alone. At the time, I thought his consistency meant permanence. I thought no matter how distant I became, he'd remain accessible, emotionally available on demand. I didn't see that every explanation costs energy. Every attempt to fix what someone else refuses to meet halfway slowly drains something essential. The moment he went quiet, I realized what silence actually means, not manipulation, not punishment. Silence is resignation. It's the sound of someone choosing emotional self-preservation over emotional labor. When he stopped chasing, it wasn't because he didn't care. It was because caring without reciprocity had finally become too expensive. What scared me wasn't losing control of the dynamic. It was losing access to him, his thoughts, his reassurance. His emotional presence. I had grown used to knowing he was there, ready to respond, ready to stabilize things. When that disappeared, I felt the irreversible nature of it. You can reignite arguments, you can restart conversations. But you can't revive someone who has emotionally checked out. Silence isn't empty, it's full of conclusions. And his silence told me he had reached his. That's when panic sets in. Not because I won something, but because I lost something I assumed was infinite. His withdrawal wasn't dramatic. It was final, and that's the most terrifying kind. I think about that future moment more than I want to admit. The day I see him calm, centered, and no longer emotionally reachable. Not bitter, not angry, just unavailable. That image terrifies me because it confirms something I've been trying to avoid. The pain didn't destroy him. It refined him. I used to believe loss makes people weaker. But I see now that for certain men, it sharpens boundaries. It clarifies priorities. It teaches restraint. If I see him happy without me, it means he took everything that hurt, the confusion, the emotional imbalance, the effort that went unreciprocated, and turned it into wisdom. And that's the fear, not that he moved on, but that he evolved, because if he's grounded now, it means he learned not to overgive. If he's calm, it means he no longer negotiates his emotional needs, And if he's unavailable, it means he finally chose himself, something I didn't encourage when I had the chance. I won't be part of that version of him, the man who no longer explains himself to someone unwilling to listen, the man who values emotional reciprocity above attachment. Knowing I contributed to the making of that man, but won't benefit from who he became, is a quiet kind of grief. Growth doesn't always bring reconciliation. Sometimes it brings distance, and I fear that when I see him thriving, it will confirm that losing me wasn't his downfall, it was his turning point. The hardest fear isn't absence, it's accountability. It's knowing he showed up fully emotionally present, consistent, patient, and I mishandled it. Not intentionally, not cruelly, but carelessly. And carelessness can wound just as deeply as neglect. He didn't give fragments, he gave effort, and I met it with assumption. I thought love that doesn't beg will always stay. I thought his patience meant tolerance without limits. I didn't realize that giving your best doesn't mean you'll be protected. It means you're vulnerable. Regret like this doesn't scream, it whispers. It shows up later, quietly, when you meet people who don't compare. When you encounter inconsistency disguised as excitement. When you realize how rare it is to find someone emotionally stable, communicative, and grounded, and how easy it is to lose them. The fear isn't about wanting him back. It's about knowing I can't undo the lesson. I can't see what I failed to value. And I can't unknow that someone once loved me in a way that required no chaos, only awareness. That regret follows you. Not dramatically, just persistently. Especially when you realize that not everyone who gives their best gets a second chance.